My name is Matt Berwick. I am the Senior Program Manager for Disability Accommodations and Clinical Services at UPMC. I also teach part-time at the University of Pittsburgh, and I'm active in adaptive sports with the Pittsburgh Steelwheelers and the Pittsburgh Curling Club.
Okay, Matt. So all I really know is that you made an appointment because you wanted to try cycling, but don't know have much more than that. So tell me a little bit about, why are you here and what did you want to look at or try?
So I've tried hand cycling in rehab, but it's not really anything that I've done in the community. I'd really like to do it as something that I can do with my friends and my family on flat trails, nothing too extreme. So something super basic would be, I think, a perfect fit.
Okay. So when you were in rehab, do you feel like was it something a little more upright? You just sort of scooted over. I'm guessing in rehab they probably helped you get in it. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, it was very upright, and it was, like I would call it an old clunker, is what I rode in rehab, and it was just up and down the hallways.
Okay, so things to think about with riding sort of more on your own and on the trails. If they're sort of flatter, little less need for lots of gears, but we want to think about how many gears do you think you really want. Because you have some arm weakness, we'll need to think about how are we setting you up. We don't want to make you push against gravity if that's really not going to work for you. And sort of stabilizing you and making sure you're stable, making sure that your trunk is comfortable, that sort of thing. You're not going to lose your balance one way or the other, but also not so upright that you're feeling like you're in the sort of clunky, only a couple gears, only meant really for just going short distances. So things to think about, almost anything is going to be a little lower than your chair. So do you think that transfer is something that like either you can do or you can have help doing?
Yeah, so I think as far as the transfer goes, I can probably find somebody to help me scoot down onto a little lower of a surface.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and then getting back up too. Like you'll have to have the same person
Yes.
with you. So this is probably, like you said, something you're gonna do more with other people.
Yeah.
And then how do you think you can transport it? Like, do you have a vehicle big enough, and can someone help you put it in?
I do have a vehicle that can probably hold a bike. It's an SUV, so I'm thinking it'll fit in the back of it.
Okay.
And as far as if I'm going to have somebody help me transfer, I'll have somebody help me get it in another car as well.
Yeah, so that's something we'll have to try to, and when we're looking at options, we'll sort of think through and make sure that we're not picking something that's not going to fit, or that's not going to be too big for family or friend to help you manage. So things before we get out one of the demo bikes is thinking about how we're going to stabilize your hands. So some options are that we can use straps, but we can also use something like a tri-pin, which I think is similar to what you use for driving.
Mm-hmm.
But do you have pretty good wrist range of motion and you can sort of pull out?
Mm-hmm.
So that's good. Yeah, we can sort of get you sort of locked in with the tri-pins, but then a lot of the bike set up for people with upper extremity limitations, you shift with your wrist. So if you feel pretty strong, like that might work. So we'll try one of those. Yeah. And then braking is the other thing to think about. If your hands are pretty locked in, it's hard to hit something. So some of them you just back pedal. There are some other options though that, like, if you don't really like your hands being locked in, you can hit something on the shaft or on the side. So we'll sort of look at what might work or not work for you.
Okay.
And then can you remind me, sort of, do you have tricep strength? No.
I don't, not on either side. So
okay.
No triceps.
So we shouldn't put you too far back that you're sort of pushing against gravity. That's just not going to work. Your arms are going to get stuck. So we'll set you up a little bit more. Okay. And again, we'll sort of look at that in the demo. And we'll probably get you set up without it, but we may also want to think about like using some sort of chest strap or something. Since you play rugby, you probably use one for something like that. So a similar idea of sort of like lock your trunk in so you're not wobbling around while you're trying to pedal. So sort of next step is we'll bring out a demo, try to get into it, see what you think about that transfer, see what you think about getting your hand set up, and just sort of talk through how you control it. Okay. And then we'll go outside and give it a go. And then if you feel pretty comfortable, like you remember, you know how to use it and you can help direct someone to help you, we'll let you try it for a while and then regroup about how to take measurements and make sure we're getting you, the one with all the parts that you need.
Sounds good.
Okay, Matt. So this is one of the examples that we have here of one that's set up for someone with hand function similar to yours. But there are other options. So we could, if this doesn't seem like it's going to work, we could get other things to try. This one is a little lower, so we'll have to think through that from a transfer perspective. And it does have those dry pins that I was telling you about with some straps. But again, so may or may not be what you actually want. Some people really like it. Some people feel like it's too tight. So we'll just see what you think. There's some adjustment too. We can put the back up, bring the crank in and out, and adjust the legs. So we'll just get you in. I set it up based on sort of your height, and we'll sort of go from there. See how it fits you. Okay.
Okay.
So I think the easiest way to get in with some help is to get one of your legs sort of across it, and it'll help sort of lower you down. And we'll have Carl sort of help guide your hips and make sure you land in the right spot.
Okay.
Does that sound like a game plan to you?
Sounds good.
Okay.
Do you think I'm in a good position here?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I'm just sort of gonna straddle the back to make sure I can reach you.
Great. Cover the front of my cushion.
I feel like this is in the way.
We're okay.
Feel reasonably balanced if I help lift a little bit?
Yeah.
Okay. 1, 2, 3. Carl, stay behind you while I come around.
Just a couple of spasms.
Yeah, we'll just let this take a minute.
Go ahead.
So before we go outside, I think we'll slide the foot loops back
Okay.
a little bit. It's okay if your legs are straight, but it may make the spasms worse. We just want to make sure this one actually might be okay, or could go a little longer, just to keep it away from the chain. You just don't want that rubbing, on your leg.
Right.
From a trunk perspective, you're pretty even, but I think we, again, should use the chest strap when you go outside. You feeling reasonably okay?
Yeah.
Can keep going? Okay. So let's try getting a hand in. So we don't have to use the strap, but what do you feel about that position there?
I'm okay with the left hand.
The left hand. What do you think? Is the right hand maybe more or less likely for this to work?
I think for the right hand, we may need the strap
Okay.
as opposed to just being able to hold on.
You just have a little better grip on the left?
I do, yeah.
Okay. I'm just going to hold it
Okay.
sort of still.
Let's see if we can get my hand in there. You might have to pull my fingers forward. There we go.
I'm just going to wiggle your watch back.
And we're
Okay.
in.
How are you feeling okay there before I put
Yeah,
the strap?
you can put the strap around. Looks
Okay.
good.
So it looks a little bit tight, so we may just want to make sure that's not pinching your hands.
Sure.
You do want it tight so you don't, slide out of it, but you don't
Right.
want it to rub and cause some skin issues. We may also want to think about doing it with your watch in a different position or taking it off just so it
Okay.
doesn't slide up in there. Let's see. So sort of let it. You can pedal sort of backwards. The brakes get engaged, but okay. So you can stop there. So at the longest, your arms are still a little bit bent. You could maybe go a little bit more, but we're getting into the point where your arms might just sort of fall back if we put it out too far. You also don't want to be stretched all the way out.
Right.
So maybe just a little bit longer.
Okay.
And then bring it back again. So that position Um, probably is pretty good. We don't want to get you too tucked, but want to make sure that you feel comfortable sort of doing that cycle. So you notice I've been moving this. That is the brake sort of coming on and off.
Okay.
It's just going to stop moving because this one's set up to brake if you go backwards.
Got it.
So if you go backwards, it's not going to let you keep going. That's why I was flipping
Okay,
it. But
perfect.
that's sort of how that works. Things to know though, your hands are strapped in. So you're going to have to have somebody else flip
Sure.
that. So, again, there's sort of pros and cons of this strategy. From a comfort perspective, how are you feeling?
Very good. I feel solid in here. I feel like I could go a couple of miles.
Okay, so I think before we go outside, we should, like I said, adjust the foot plates a little bit, got a chest strap, and then strategize. We can maybe a little more once you get actually cranking outside.
Sure.
We can also take one with a little less intense handhold, still take the straps and see if you like that better.
For sure.
That one's a little more set up. You can sort of customize, this one could have less aggressive grip assistance, or a more upright bike could have more, but that just happens to be the ones that we have.
It's a little low to the ground, but
Yeah.
something a little higher might be more beneficial.
It might be a little easier from a you don't have to have as much help perspective. You're
For
still
sure.
likely going to need help getting up and down, but you could maybe do it with one person if it's not quite so low to the ground.
Yeah.
So I think those are things, we'll still try some stuff, but maybe before you actually make decisions, you can think about it and talk with, your family or whoever you think you might be riding with first about what will work best for you.
Okay.
All right, so let's get your hands unstrapped and then we'll work on getting back out here. Okay, you can slide your hands in and out yourself, good. All right, so we'll have Carl come back and we'll get your chair situated.
Sounds good.